Hello, hello, good morning, and happy Friday. It is Friday, June 13th. Friday the 13th, everybody. And I guess there's something to this bad luck or bad vibes on Friday the 13th as we wake up here on the East Coast. Not too much happening today, Ted. It's a slow news day. Boring, slow news day. So, we'll just talk about like our pets and stuff. You are tuned in to the Ted. That's right. You're tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI Show for short, because we will be bringing you way too much information. Today, just two big topics, unavoidable, obviously. Major topic is Israel strikes deep within Iran. I mean, multiple sites. And what this can all mean, who knew what? We'll talk about that in full detail for the first half hour. And in the back half of the show, we're going to be talking to our friend Susan Pai. If you guys followed Ted and mine and Ted's old show, you're familiar with her. She is an immigration attorney with more than 25 years experience in the field. So I would say she knows a thing or two because the riots in LA are continuing. The National Guard be damned. Then there's they're kind of the political football in California right now because the courts are going back and forth about who has control over sending armed troops to California. And of course, Trump's travel ban took effect this week from more than a dozen countries, half a dozen more on a restricted list. Like, what's the deal with that? Like, Laos, Turkmenistan, what? Why? We'll talk about that. So those are the two main topics today. So sit tight. We're going to go into detail. We are live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. So please be sure to hit the like button, the follow button. And if you're in the position to do so, please join us on Rumble Premium, where you can see Rumble Premium exclusive content that is, I think there's a trend that it's getting spicier and spicier and taboo topics that I think YouTube doesn't really enjoy. So with that, Ted, good morning. Let's hop into this slow ass boring news day. So Ted, we're gonna do something a little different. We're gonna play we're gonna play a clip from the foreign press and see how they're covering this. Because Ted, you can't really get fair reporting. Imagine that from American mainstream media. So you really, really got to go with international media here. So we're going to play, I don't exactly know what country this broadcaster is from, but here's how they're reporting it. I found it very, very clear and concise and fair. Oh, I thought, okay, maybe I'm pulling up the wrong one.
Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is alive and being regularly briefed on the evolving situation following Israel's overnight strikes on Tehran and other key targets. This was confirmed by a senior Iranian security source who spoke to news agency Reuters on Friday. The Israeli air assault, which struck multiple military and nuclear-related sites across Iran early on Friday, has significantly escalated tensions in the already volatile region. The attacks reportedly killed several top Iranian military officials and nuclear scientists. Ayatollah Khamenei condemned the strikes in a strong statement released by Iran's state-run IRNA news agency on Friday morning. He accused Israel of committing a grave crime on Iranian soil and warned of harsh consequences. The Iranian media reported the statement, quoting, "In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, great nation of Iran, the Zionist regime opened its dirty and bloody hand to a crime in our beloved country this morning and revealed its evil nature by striking residential centers more than ever before. The regime must expect severe punishment. The powerful hand of the Islamic Republic's armed forces will not abandon it, God willing. Several commanders and scientists were martyred in the enemy attacks. Their successors and colleagues will immediately resume their duties, God willing. With this crime, the Zionist regime prepared a bitter and painful fate for itself and will definitely receive it." Iran's foreign ministry, meanwhile, also responded sharply, asserting that the country reserves the right to retaliate. In a statement, it declared that Iran will not hesitate to defend the nation and directly accused the United States of complicity in the attack. The ministry argued that the airstrikes could not have been executed without US knowledge and support. The statement read, "Such acts of aggression by the Zionist regime against Iran could not have occurred without coordination and authorization from the United States." Accordingly, the US government, as the regime's primary backer, is also responsible for the dangerous consequences of this reckless escalation. In an urgent diplomatic push, Iran has also called on the United Nations member states to collectively condemn the Israeli strikes. It urged the international community to act swiftly to prevent further escalation and to hold Israel accountable. The situation remains tense, with both nations on high alert, as the regional and global leaders watch closely. The risk of broader conflict in the Middle East looms large.
All right, so I believe that report comes from an Indian broadcaster, an English-speaking broadcaster in India, I believe. But Ted, they bring up a good point here. The quote from Iran's foreign ministry there saying that well, first of all, that's the wrong one, but they were saying that that this could not have occurred without American knowledge or tacit approval. I don't know. What do you think about that? Because that really, if you contrast that with Marco Rubio's begging and pleading tweet to let the Iranians know, hey, the U.S., they did this, Israel did this without the U.S. We had nothing to do with it. Don't bomb our people. Don't bomb our assets. Please don't attack our interests. I don't know what to make of this. I do, I really feel like at the very least, the U.S. was given a heads up, as I mentioned yesterday on the show, that Marco Rubio evacuated American embassy staff from Baghdad and reportedly other surrounding nations in the area, and any kind of American staff. They were saying, get out of there. I don't think that's a coincidence. So at the very least, if the U.S. wasn't complicit in these attacks, then it was at least forewarned. And I say forewarned for a reason, because I don't believe Bibi is there to ask for permission or forgiveness. I don't think there are any fucks given. And he's like, we're doing this. And Trump is feckless to stop him.
Manila, I agree with everything you just said. Look, very clearly, the United States was brought into the loop. What clearly happened here was that the Israelis said, "Hey, we're going to do this." We know that it's clear because, like you said, the U.S. cleared out their embassies in the Middle East earlier in the week, and not to mention, there's been all sorts of reporting in the press that either Trump or Israel was about to attack Iran. So that chatter has been around for about the better part of a week. So very clearly that was in the cards. I never believed that the U.S. was going to attack Iran at all, that it was always going to be Israel. And I've said that in other fora. So I think that's what we saw here. So now there's some, that said, I think there is some space between the Trump administration and Netanyahu here that's bigger than usual. Usually, the U.S. and Israel go into these things as, butt buddies. They do it together. They do everything. They coordinate. They intel, everything. I don't think that's true this time. Trump clearly did not want this attack to take place. He urged Bibi not to do it. He wanted the negotiations the negotiations in Oman were ongoing. This certainly was not going to help these negotiations along. So it was only going to scuttle the negotiations. So Trump did not like this attack. He told Bibi not to do it. Bibi said, I'm going to do it anyway. So Trump's like, okay, well, you're on your own. Now, what would happen if Iran were to pose an existential military threat to Tel Aviv or Jerusalem? Well, I think the U.S. would step in at that point. But the U.S. is not going to be holding hands here. In other words, I don't think the U.S. provided targeting information against Iran, not that the Israelis needed it. I think the U.S. had sort of all right, you do you, but we're standing by and we can't stop you. You're your own sovereign state. Have fun. But if this goes tits up, that's on you. And whatever happens as a result, don't say you weren't warned.
That? Do you believe that the U.S. would abandon Israel if and when Tehran strikes back? I mean, make no mistake, they already attempted to, but everything was taken down over Jordanian airspace. The Jordanians immediately closed their airspace. There are no more flights from Emirates Air and all of these local carriers. They've closed all airspace. Flights, there's nothing going overhead, and the Jordanians have confirmed that they shot down missiles. They've taken down drones. So the Iranians immediately tried to return fire, but the Jordanians, for example, I don't think they're deliberately trying to cuck only them. They're saying our airspace is closed. Don't care the volley, which way it's coming from. Nothing is flying into our airspace. It's done, because we don't want escalation from either side. So right now, effectively, that is neutering Tehran's response capability.
Look, Manila, I don't think that the U.S. is going to abandon Iran entirely. I mean, Israel entirely. But that said, but for minor things like drone attacks, they're not going to be there for them. Look, the Israelis they're big boys. They're armed to the teeth. They've got lots of big bang bangs that we gave them for a long time.
Yes.
So they've got they have Iron Dome. They've got the Patriot.
They used American F-16s. Netanyahu confirmed that. In fact, we should probably play his full speech that he gave last night, because it was 5-6 minutes long, and it was done in English. And I think that is also
the whole thing. 5 or 6 minutes.
It was very telling. It was very, very telling.
But I think clearly but Donald is displeased this morning. This was not what he wanted. He did not want them to do this. This is definitely when you have your boyfriend or your girlfriend goes rogue, and they do something that you don't want them to do, and you can't stop them. You wish they wouldn't, but they will. And that's what's going on here. It's kind of okay, well, so, Trump had to sort of make the best of it and he called the strikes excellent. But no, all the messaging out of the White House is very clear. Trump is angry. I don't know if he's throwing a plate full of ketchup at the wall, but he's displeased by this. I'm telling you, there's just this is not like Israel is doing the U.S.'s bidding here at all.
Well, I also heard, though, I've heard chatter of people saying that they believe, and I don't mean people, general population people. I mean people in government official roles, saying that this whole conversation about a new JCPOA was actually a ruse. And I can't remember if it was Israeli officials or American officials accidentally, tacitly saying that it was like, yeah, we didn't really mean to do another JCPOA. It was actually to lull the Iranians into a false sense of security. I forget which side said that, the American side or the Israeli side, but they basically tacitly confirmed that none of that was a real deal. And this gave cover for Netanyahu to move forward with these strikes. And on top of that, now, I mean, just moments ago, the Iranians have told the press publicly all talks with the U.S. are off. Meanwhile, Trump is saying, like, you got to come to the table now. We're trying to save what's left of your country. Don't let this go any further. Come to the table. Let's do a talk. Let's do a peace deal or a new JCPOA deal. And that now allegedly the Iranians are saying, nope, we're out, because apparently the Iranians believe, I forget which official said it, American or Israeli, but apparently they believe these new reports to be true, that they believe the Americans were complicit in the way of trying to dupe the Iranians into a false sense of security. So I don't know if maybe we hear Bibi, let's hear him talk.
Must we?
But he's saying
Must
that
we?
he's talking. Must we? Yes.
Who can stop him, really?
Exactly. I mean, even I can't stop him. He's just going to talk on our show. He's going to do it, or else I might get droned.
We're all going to get droned. Everybody must get droned.
Today, the Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. Now, as Prime Minister, I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel backs those words with action. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb. We also struck at the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program. Last year, Iran fired 300 ballistic missiles at Israel. Each of these missiles carries a ton of explosives and threatens the lives of hundreds of people. Soon, those missiles could carry a nuclear payload, threatening the lives not of hundreds, but of millions. Iran is gearing up to produce 10,000 of those ballistic missiles within 3 years. Now just imagine 10,000 tons of TNT landing on a country the size of New Jersey.
I'm going to pause it real quick, Ted, because we have heard for the past 30 years that Iran was 3 to 5 years away from enriching all the uranium to make a gajillion pounds of nukes. We've heard for 30 years that they're just that far away, just that far, just 3 years. 3 years they're going to do it.
It's Zeno's paradox.
Like how many 3-year chunks are we going to keep punting on this for any of that to ever be true?
Well, I mean, the thing about Netanyahu is the only thing you can really trust is that he's looking out for Netanyahu. I'm curious about Israeli public opinion and what the effect is going to be here. I mean, sometimes an attack like this, after, like, for example, after 9/11 and the attack against Afghanistan, is widely popular because wars pull societies together. But in this particular case, Israel's been traumatized not just by the October 7th attack, but by the subsequent failure of the country to win the war. Israel historically never does well with long, protracted wars. this is the longest by far that they've been engaged in. And it's really messing up Israeli society. And also, for a lot of Israelis who are concerned about the declining reputation in the world of the Jewish state, they're looking at this and they're like, well, this isn't going to help. Now, the thing is, I want to talk a little bit about, before we're going to go to immigration and deportations with Susan Pai, I want to talk a little bit about the repercussions for Iran. Now, Iran is in a very interesting place right now. Right now, they get to play the victim card. They get to go to the UN and say, whoa, poor us. Look at the mean Zionist entity attacking us. And they also get to go to all the Sunni countries in the Sunni Shia divide that they're usually on the wrong side of. And the Arab street looks at them and they can say, look at us. We're the only people who stand up to the Israelis, and that's why they're beating us up. Everybody else talks a good game about supporting the Palestinians, but we do it. And we support proxies in the region that actually resist the Zionists. So, help us out. Now, that doesn't mean that like the Saudi royal family is going to become friends with the Iranians, but maybe the Saudi people are going to start to admire the Iranians more. So there's definitely this is an opportunity for Iran. They're probably going to retaliate in a measured way because they get to continue to come off as reasonable. They get to play the victim. They get to get sympathy. This is. I mean, they took a hit, and these were very serious assassinations that Iran carried out.
The military chain of command.
Basically, they killed the vice president of Iran. And they basically killed the chief of staff. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of Iran. So,
top nuclear scientists who were working on these programs.
Right.
It doesn't mean there aren't others that can take their place and continue the work.
And there will be.
And one thing is weird, Ted, is the Iranians are right in saying that these were not measured attacks from Israel, targeted, very localized attacks. These hit downtown Tehran. They didn't hit just the Natanz nuclear facility. They hit downtown Tehran in apartment buildings.
Yep.
You are deliberately striking in civilian zones. They haven't reported.
Well, that's not new for the Israelis. They're just getting started.
Well, that's right. They're pretty comfortable.
They're all about that. Yeah.
Yeah, killing civilians that have nothing to do with anything, that are asleep in their apartments in this high rise, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this high rise, it's not like this is the high rise where all of our scientists live. Like that's not what it is. It's just dudes at homes with their family, regular families that are neighbors. That's what was taken down in Tehran. We don't know yet how many civilians were killed there, just sleeping in their beds. Like this is a horrible, horrible attack.
Yeah.
It's just merciless and terrible.
But and of course, it also is incredibly reckless. I mean, literally, this is ridiculous, right? This is like when I think about for example, Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor, the U.S. and Japan, Imperial Japan, were negotiating. The negotiations broke down, and then the Japanese attacked us. Okay, here, the U.S. and Iran are negotiating in Oman. In fact, the negotiations right now are theoretically still ongoing. Right? There's no word that they've been canceled. Although I'd be shocked if they weren't.
No, they've been
at least
scuttled.
Put on hold. Okay, all right.
No, they've been scuttled. Iran says we out.
Okay, all right. Well, and that's exactly, that's what Bibi wanted, right? But the point is, just think about how disgusting that is. Like, there you are. You're trying to bring this thing in for a peaceful resolution. And then this shithead third party who's not even at the negotiations comes in and decides to start bombing one of the two parties involved. I mean, Trump can't be happy about this.
So there was an interesting line in this all English speech that Bibi gave last night. I mean, he was taking his victory lap. And I don't remember exactly where he said it, but Bibi specifically said, to the people of Iran, you are not our enemy. He says, your liberation is coming. That's a quote. I don't remember where exactly in this timeline in this video, but specifically, he said exactly those words to the people of Iran: your day of liberation is coming. So I don't know if he believes it, but he's basically projecting himself as this democracy and freedom fighter, and that he's going to be the liberator of the Iranians. So I find that not only narcissistic, but fucking nuts if he thinks that this is going to be like the US versus Iraq in the 90s. This is not Iraq. Like Steve Witkoff.
Well, Iraq wasn't Iraq. I mean, they didn't greet us as liberators.
Steve Witkoff, Trump's what is he? What is his position? But he's like one of the two real estate guys that Trump has brought into his cabinet. And Witkoff is like the only one that's telling the rest of the neocons to tell them, bros, this is not Iraq. Iran is a real country with a real military, with real intelligence and real weapons. Like, this is not going to be, if we get involved like Israel wants, this is not going to be Iraq.
But we're not going to be involved. I mean,
I hope not.
Rubio's statement is clear. He doesn't speak for himself. He only speaks for the Donald. And the Donald's clear on this. So, you
believe that?
Oh, this was a mistake.
Robbie says no. Robbie's saying
this was a strategic error on Trump, on Bibi's. Bibi definitely is imperiling the U.S.-Israeli relationship. I'm not saying that like Donald's going to take his toys and go all the way back to his own yard, but he's not pleased. He's not pleased.
Well, you act like Trump actually has a choice in this. I mean, Bibi famously said that he controls the American Congress, which is true. If I did my little stream last night, just going through, just looking at the Twitter feeds of all of the neocons in both political parties. They're cheerleading Israel. They're rah-rah-rahing Israel. And as a right-wing MAGA type person that's concerned about immigration, I was going to say, if immigration is your biggest concern in migration, starting another war and major refugee crisis in the Middle East probably is not the best move. And anyone that thinks that Israel is able to attack Iran without American support in terms of logistics or munitions is out of their minds. Israel could not have done this without American help. That's the fact. Right. That's a statement of fact.
There's got to be some level of complicity here, because as we saw, Marco Rubio evacuated American embassy staff from the entire region. So, you can view it as that alone is being complicit because you knew that this was coming, and that's complicity, or that the US, supplied the F-16s and F-15s and the 35s and the other munitions that were used overnight. So there are a lot of ways to say that the US was complicit.
Well, there's also an Israeli government official. I'm saying this real quick. I'll jump off. I see that Susan is here. This Israeli official confirmed that the Trump administration gave Iran, on the first day of his new term, bunker busting bombs designed to do these kind of deep penetration attacks. And I mean, it's really disingenuous of Marco Rubio, who is a proven liar in every way, shape, and form, to say America is not involved in this when that is absolutely undeniably true. We fund the Israeli military. We fund the genocide that they're doing. We arm them. We are up to our eyeballs in this. And the Iranian government may not want to have a war with Israel. Doesn't change the fact that Israel's at war with them. And so either they keep getting punched in the face or they can hit back. It's a binary choice.
Yeah, I don't see any tamping down of tensions, Ted. I think I don't
think we're tamping down tensions here at all. I mean, I'm quite to the contrary. I don't know that I said anything that implied that. No, all I'm saying is that that this crisis presents opportunity. In this case, for Iran, I think it's Israel that's out over their skis, to use a metaphor I'm not crazy about. And the U.S. is in a very awkward position because what Iran said is true. I mean, we're joined at the hip to Israel, no question. Even if we had nothing to do with the specific attack, the general relationship is that we're the closest of all possible allies. So, the Ayatollah is right about that. And, so we definitely are, we and our assets are vulnerable all around the world. The Iranians are going to choose their retaliation in the time and method that suits them. It's not going to be just like, oh, they hit us, and so today we hit back. Even like the U.S., it took months before the United States retaliated against Pearl Harbor with the Doolittle raid over Tokyo. It's the Iranians are going to carefully consider what they want to do. They're not going to want to be seen as overreacting, but they also can't be perceived as weak. So it's a delicate balance. So they're going to have to do something substantial to Israel, the U.S., or their allies. But it's like the question is, what will that be? It's impossible to say. This could be through regional proxies. It could be, I think it's going to come. Yeah. If I have to guess, so I guess I'm not paid to have to guess, but I'm going to guess. I'm gonna just say this is going to come in some unexpected way that nobody would have just seen. Like, oh, it'll make sense after the fact, not ahead of time. It won't be predictable.
I feel like there's going to be some sleeper cells involved. There's going to be some there might
be plausible deniability too. It might be like
there are multiple ways to skin this cat. And last thing I'll say is we're looking literally at downtown Tehran, which is a real city. I mean, just look at those towers.
I've been to.
Like it's a real functioning city.
It's like a European city.
Yeah, right. This is not what we thought of Turkey. The Iraqis or Afghanistan that are like dudes walking around in robes and flip-flops. That's not what downtown Tehran is.
No.
And that is like a nice residential building. And this is not what I would call a precision strike when you guaranteed that whole area on the upper floors, there are innocent civilians and probably children that died in that.
Well, when you drop a bomb on an apartment building, and I take this personally since I live in one, it's never precision. It's not possible. It's not, all the units are attached. There's gas lines, electrical wiring. The fires can spread. I mean, they can burn down the entire block. I mean, who knows what's being stored? I mean, I'm not even kidding. You have an e-bike in someone's apartment. That thing is like a bomb.
Oh, I remember we talked about that.
So yeah.
All right, so we'll leave that there, and we're going to switch gears and head over to immigration because nothing's happening there, Ted. We're just hanging out with Susan for fun, and we're just dragging her on. So yeah, let's head over to our other topic. There's a lot of stuff to still discover about what happened in Iran and multiple sites and all the people who've died. And obviously we'll probably be talking about this on Monday with more details emerging. So, All right, let's switch gears and head over to the immigration issue.
All right. Well, I think we should just get right into it.
Let's bring Susan in.
That's what I was going to do. Susan Pai is an experienced immigration attorney with over 26 years of legal expertise. She focuses on immigration law, business law, estate planning, and guardianships. And she has a background as a former deputy prosecuting attorney and public defender in Washington.
Well, hold on one second. I'm having technical issues here. I popped Susan on, and it's not appearing. For some reason, I don't know why.
Susan, can you hear us? If so, can you type into the chat maybe or something?
She was there. Susan, can you hear us? I think her image is frozen. Susan, if you can hear us, we can't see you.
She might just have her connection might be laggy. All right. Well, while we're working on that,
maybe Susan will pop back on. Hold on.
She can. Okay, she's saying she can.
She can see and hear us, but okay, Susan, I think your video is frozen. If you don't mind logging off and then popping back on,
that'll usually solve it. Just do Command
or
R.
refresh.
Yeah, just
refresh. Or refresh.
Command R will take care of that sucker.
She's popping off. She'll pop back on. She was fine. I saw her in the background, but anyway. So if you guys didn't know, there's all kinds of immigration stuff happening in Los Angeles.
Well, everywhere. So, so by the way, we're looking at some widespread protests about deportations and other issues coming tomorrow. Right, tomorrow is the big military parade celebrating the 250th anniversary of the Army, as well as Donald Trump's birthday in Washington, D.C. Organizers have said they don't want any clashes or to interfere with what's going on in Washington. So there are going to be no planned protests that I'm aware of in Washington. But in other cities, including here in New York City, there's no Kings protests that are scheduled that basically are generalized anti-Trump. But I think there's going to be
down the street from my house.
There's going to be a major emphasis will be on the deportations. Trump's ICE goons have been running around like crazy, and they're scooping people up off the streets. By the way, there's some news, right, in the case of Khalil. Khalil has been basically ordered to be freed pending his case, and so we're going to see if the Trump administration continues to ignore the courts, but it looks like it's going to be hard for them to do that. So he's probably going to be out. He's the Columbia University master's degree recent graduate, who green card holder, who was famously kidnapped in front of his wife, his very pregnant wife, who's now a mom. So basically we have this clash between people who are against the deportations in general and or the methodology being involved. And there's been some violence in Los Angeles, and these have spread to other cities like New York City, Chicago, Austin, Texas, and elsewhere. And so, this is about ruined lives. It's about disrupted lives. It's about what kind of country we are. It's about, in my opinion, it's about bait and switch. It's like where for years, both parties leave the border open and say, come on in. And then the last 4 years, the Biden administration literally says, hey, come on in. And there's an app for that. And then we let them in. And it's like, oh, what the fuck are you doing here? You fucking terrorists. Get the fuck out.
Here's the green card, but you're a terrorist.
Evildoers. And it's like, but you guys said, it's like, well, you broke the law. Well, but you guys said you didn't care about your own law. Why should we care about your law? It's like, fuck you. You're going to prison.
We have Susan's audio. Her video, for whatever reason, decided to go away. But I do have Susan's audio. Susan, can you speak? Can we hear you?
Good morning, Manila and Ted. How are you?
Great, Susan. You sound great.
You look so pretty, too. And I saw when your video froze, I was ready to click you. And I was like, oh, she looks great. And now the video won't work. We've been having technical issues all morning. I don't know what's going on. Must be the Trump administration cracking down on the.
No, I mean Manila StreamYard was out yesterday for most of the afternoon. I checked the status.
No kidding. So
yeah, so there's some kind of Google.
A lot of apps.
Issue.
A lot of apps were actually taken down yesterday, so there might be
the Google Cloud was down, so that's what happened. So
that might
the entire internet is kind of fucked up today.
Yeah, so I apologize for that. But I physically saw Susan in the virtual backstage for a couple of minutes, and then when I was ready to go to her, there was no more video. It just wiped away. But anyway, Susan, thank you so much for joining us. Susan Pai, if you guys are familiar with our shows, Susan Pai used to come on with us regularly on the radio. Obviously, she's an immigration attorney. She has over 26 years of legal experience. She has multiple degrees in stuff I wouldn't even imagine, Susan. but you have a background also as a deputy prosecutor and public defender in Washington State. Is that right?
That's right. And I've testified for Congress, and I've worked very closely with Stephen Miller all the way back to when he was working for Jeff Sessions. So I'm very, very familiar with Stephen and how he thinks. And yes.
Interesting. So you actually know him.
I do know him, and I do know him to be quite a doggedly focused individual. And he's always been against immigration and immigrants, going all the way back to high school. But it's very personal for him.
It's so weird, that guy's take on, I mean, considering he's, I think, from Santa Monica, isn't he?
He is
It's
from Santa
very-
Monica. Yeah, just to give you a small example, he gave a speech to his entire high school saying that nobody should pick up their trash because that's why the Mexican janitors were hired at the school. So his way of thinking is quite.
Oh, we lost Susan's audio.
Oh.
I see her box is still there. I can still see that she's there, but her audio dropped out. That.
All right. Well, let's
Susan,
work
can you
on
hear
this.
us?
I can hear you.
There you
Oh,
are.
you are.
There, it dropped
Okay,
out.
cool.
Yeah, his way of thinking sounds very racist, but what do I know? Like that, that's why we've hired these Mexican janitors. Wow. Just wow. Like a kid coming from the West Side. I mean, I'm from LA. That's just not a common way to look at things, from people from the West Coast. So I'm kind of a little bit appalled. I thought it's very strange to hear that he was like that as a kid. But so first, can we address what happened at the top of the week, which was, Trump doing this travel ban that was enacted starting Monday. These 12 countries, full travel restrictions: Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran. Hello, Iran. Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. Full travel ban. Oh, we lost Susan. Man, the interwebs are funky.
Yeah, very much so.
So we've got, Ted, we've got these people that are full travel ban. Iran, I forgot that they were on the full travel ban list. I don't know what to make anymore of what's happening with our immigration. So I hope Susan can pop back on. This has been very sketchy today. I don't know if that's like every streaming group.
Yeah, look, I mean, you know how it is. These things always are sort of scattershot, and some people get affected more than others. It's like when the power grid goes down, and some people, my power's fine, and then other people are like, oh, my power leaks in and out, and then other people are like, oh, my power's.
Remember when we did our pre-tape with
Robbie
the dating coach?
Robbie's asking to be put on. He has some sort of update. So.
Okay, so I know what's going on. So I was just went through Down Detector. So good news and bad news. Good news is that Rumble Studio is working perfectly fine because it's independent of Google. So whatever this problem is, it's going through the Google Cloud service, and it is impacting StreamYard. So the reason why y'all couldn't hear earlier is I was trying to jack the audio from YouTube. Well, YouTube's kind of jacked right now. So now I'm still in the feed from X. That's how you're able to hear. So that's what's going on now. So now we have a couple of options. One, I can generate a link that we can send to Susan for Rumble Studio, but then the people on YouTube aren't going to be able to hear anything. So y'all tell me what poisons you want to use.
We should try to reschedule Susan, right?
It's
not like this issue is going away. So,
but I do have good news. But I do have good news for you,
Ted. Talk to her next week if she's available.
But I do have good news for you, Ted. For the Deprogram podcast later on today, instead of using StreamYard like we normally do, let's use Rumble Studio, stream to all the places, and then we can just bypass StreamYard. Yeah, we can stream YouTube. Won't matter.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. Okay, 3 p.m.
That's what's going on.
Oh, wow. So that's what's going on. Is everything Google Cloud-based is affected?
Yeah, Google Cloud stuff. Yeah, and Chris Pavlovsky right now on Twitter is just blasting Google and just having an absolute field day saying, listen, bitches, my stuff is working. Your crap sucks.
I mean, honestly, though, this, by the way, okay, so when you guys are children, so you don't know this, but when
children,
so when CDs
almost 50,
when CDs were introduced, right, we were told they cannot be scratched. It's impossible.
What?
To scratch
they told
them.
you that?
That's how they were sold. Not like LP records. They can't be scratched. And then, of course, anyone who's ever actually used a CD knows that they skip and they scratch. And
well, of course.
And in fact, if you just smudge them, they can.
Yes.
Skip, right. So, anyway, similarly, we were told when the internet, the World Wide Web, was rolled out in the early 90s, we were told, oh, Pete, the way it works is it'll never go down, because even in the event of a nuclear strike, they said this, like, it won't matter, because like the traffic will automatically be redirected around a node and it'll go into a different place. So it's like indestructible, like a CD can't be scratched. And like, don't worry. It's like the internet. And it was like,
Susan's back.
And I was like, but when I looked into how the internet was created and as the architecture was really announced. There she is. Oh,
okay, I'm going away again.
No, I have her. I just got to reorganize something. I got to kick Robbie off.
Okay, bye, Robbie. But anyway,
Susan. Look.
It was the dumbest. Hey, you're looking great. It's been a long time. It was the dumbest thing, though, to say that the internet, which is basically like the power grid, which is basically tied. It's put together with baling wire and duct tape, and then when the internet, one little thing goes down, the whole thing starts to collapse, and that's what we're seeing in the last 24 hours.
So we figured out what the problem was, Susan. It's not any of us. Google Cloud is having an issue. So any services that run through Google, everyone's getting impacted. But we got you. Yay, you look great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, ma'am.
So we were starting, first I think we established how shockingly racist Stephen Miller sounds like he is since his youth. So maybe, some people are just born that way. I don't know. But we'll leave him aside, because I know it's not like you're busy or anything this week, Susan. It's not like there's anything going on, right? But there's this travel ban, Trump's travel ban from these 12 countries, and then a restricted list of a half a dozen countries. Do you have any idea why these countries are on a full ban, and what does that even mean?
So Trump did something similar in his first administration, and it was largely based on what we call the NSEERS program for Muslim countries. This time it's a little bit different. He's saying that it's because the countries that are banned don't have an adequate vetting system in order to prevent, for example, terrorists from coming into the United States. The second cited reason is also the frequency of overstays. So if somebody comes in from Afghanistan on a visitor visa, their chance of overstaying is X%. However, the second part of that equation does not bear out by the numbers. There's a U.S. Customs and Border Protection fiscal year 2023 report to Congress exactly on this issue, with all the data points on entry and exit overstays. And for example, in Afghanistan in 2023, there were 92 overstays, but the UK, which is obviously not a banned country, there were 16,000 overstays.
Wow.
Same year. So yeah, the numbers are the way that the Trump administration has presented this overstay problem is a little bit inaccurate.
Phony baloney is, I think, a better way to put it. Is so 91 overstays from Afghan citizens, but 16,000 British overstays, and they're not banned. That's funny.
Yeah.
Huh. That's ironic. And what about the next group, that the group of 6, we'll call them, countries that include like Laos and what else? Who else was on there? People that I thought, why Turkmenistan? Like, what do they have to do with anything? Like Laos? Like, what do Lao people have to do with this? Like, it's the most bombed country in the world because of the U.S. And now there's a travel ban on them. Okay, here's the list: Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone. I guess we don't like their diamonds. Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. Why? What is a partial restriction?
So a partial restriction is what they call a limit on the validity of the visas issued to citizens of those countries. And what that is generally meant to be is instead of, for example, being allowed to come here on a visitor visa for up to 6 months and then potentially extending it for 1 year, to visit the United States, maybe they can only come in for 60 days or 30 days or 2 weeks. And also, I believe, then, although this has not been explicitly stated in their policy, they're also going to limit the number of visas that they issue to nationals of those countries. So, for example, student visas, visitor visas, medical treatment visas, etc. And one of the reasons cited, for example, for the country of Venezuela would be difficult diplomatic ties with those countries. So from the United States with those countries, perhaps the thought process of the Trump administration is if we were to deport people from the 9 countries or from the original 12 countries, certainly, or Cuba, for example, that would be a good one, then the country may not accept the deported people from the United States back into their countries.
Interesting. Okay, so it's I don't know. The premise for either one is kind of shaky at best. So I'm not sure we buy into that. But you know what's happening. So I appreciate you giving us the distinction between the two. Now let's go to what's happening in Los Angeles. You're in Washington State, so you're out there on the West Coast. What can you tell us in terms of how the immigrant community is feeling out there, seeing this explode, this mass protests and this massive response by the federal government, basically taking charge of what's happening in California. And there are now reports that similar ICE raids and similar federal response is about to happen this weekend as well, even here in Northern Virginia, where I am, in the DC metro, including other places. New York City, I'm hearing, that's the next spot. It seems like this is the tack that the Trump administration is taking. Is that what your clients and other people in the legal community, is that what you all are hearing?
So I have a lot of contacts still in DC, and I've worked with Congress. I've testified before Congress before, and I think that the feeling is predominantly one that where migrants have focused on some level of protection in so-called sanctuary cities or sanctuary states. They no longer feel that protection. And in fact, it's quite the opposite now under the Trump administration. They feel targeted. And in fact, they are being targeted as being migrants in a sanctuary state. So I think that's the first kind of, instinctual base level feeling that people have, is where they thought they were safe. They're no longer safe and in fact are being targeted. Secondly, I think that the premise that the administration is focusing on serious criminal threats to either the security or the people of the United States is also facetious. They may be looking for one person who has a criminal history. Maybe they have 2 or 3 DUIs, but they know that that one person is going to be in the company of 20 or 30 other undocumented people, for example, as day laborers congregating at a Home Depot. And so it's really not about focusing your law enforcement resources on the worst offenders or the most dangerous people to the security of the United States. What it's really about is picking up their quota of 3,000 undocumented immigrants a day by any means possible. And I think there's also this concern about a slippery slope where Trump is so rapidly expanding his enforcement efforts against undocumented migrants, that it may well and soon spill over to populations like Dreamers. So I don't know if people know this, but DACA, which is what the quote unquote status is for Dreamers, stands for, it's basically a deferred deportation order. So it's as if you were arrested for a DUI. They don't dismiss your DUI, but they say they're going to defer prosecution of your DUI until after you finish a year's worth of classes or whatnot. So at any time, Trump could declare, well, the deferral status for Dreamers is over. We're now going to round up all the Dreamers and we're going to deport them. Same thing for people with pending green card applications. So oftentimes somebody from the UK or Australia or another country comes here on a visitor visa. They meet somebody, they fall in love, they get married, And then it is legal to file a green card application under those circumstances. And for the most of the history of USCIS processing these green card applications, the person, doesn't have to worry about being picked up and deported while their green card application is pending, because obviously they'll be able to get a green card being married to a US citizen. However, the law is not that way. The law says that they're not that they have legal status, but that they're in a period of authorized stay, which is a legally different definition than having legal status. So by the same token, as with the Dreamers, the Trump administration could say, okay, now we're going to pick up all people who are out of status, who've overstayed their visitor visas, irrespective of whether or not they're married to a citizen, who have a green card application pending, and we're going to deport them all. So I think
because they've basically been in legal purgatory.
Correct. Yeah.
And can I ask you, as an attorney, if you have a client who says, "Listen, I'm my status is nebulous, or I don't have legal status, but I have an ICE appointment. Friday. I need to go in and check in with them." Given what's been happening, where people are showing up for either court hearings or for ICE administrative hearings, and then being scooped up by ICE officers in the courthouse or at the administrative office. That's happened here at 26 Federal Plaza here in New York a number of times. It's routine now. Would you advise your client to appear or not appear, given the pros and cons?
So as a lawyer, we're not allowed to advise people to break the law or not comply with the law. So it's kind of a nebulous area for us as well. The ICE check-ins are not administrative hearings. They're just basically, it's almost like checking in with your probation officer, but for immigrations, people who don't have status or maybe are pending an asylum claim. Like as a friend or as a mother or as a daughter, I would say definitely don't go to ICE. But if you don't go to your court hearing, you will automatically end up with a deportation order. And so I would differentiate between those two things, like not as a lawyer, but like, let's say as a friend or as a relative. I would not go check in at ICE. I would 100% go to court, because if you don't, you'll automatically be deported.
Right.
But what about the people who are being entrapped, which is happening every single day in every city in the country, where the person shows up for their court hearing, and then the government moves to dismiss charges on purpose. It's a tactic, and then as soon as the defendant is like, "Who's relieved? Oh, great! They dropped charges." 5 seconds later, they walk out the door and they get nabbed.
Right. Well, I think that's the distinction Susan was making. Was, let's say Susan has a girlfriend who is an undocumented. She doesn't represent her, but it's a girlfriend of hers. And she asked Susan as a girlfriend at brunch one day, "Hey, should I show up for my check-in?" That it sounds like Susan would advise her friend, maybe that's not such a great idea to do that.
I'm not talking about the check-in. I'm talking about I know as an attorney.
At the court hearing, it sounds like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. I would imagine just anecdotally, this is going to have a chilling effect and fewer people are going to start showing up.
Yes, and I think that's by design, Ted, because if you don't show up to court, whether or not you have a valid claim to stay in the United States, a deportation order will be entered against you in absentia. So I'm sure it's a study.
You don't think it's just lazy ICE officers, or it's like, we can just, it's kind of like, we just, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Why do we nab victims in court? Because that's where they are.
No, I don't believe that about anything. I don't think there are. I don't think any of the actions we're seeing in enforcement are because of cowboy ICE agents. I think they're all very studied, very well-researched tactics, by people like Stephen Miller. And so it's a win-win situation for them if people don't go to court, because they will, instead of getting 50 deportation orders, they'll get 100% deportation orders for somebody who doesn't show up, whether or not they have a valid claim. Now, as a lawyer, what I would do in a situation like that is they're going to be in custody for quite a long time before they can get deported. unless it's somebody like Tren de Agua or MS-13.
Mhm.
And so the lawyer needs to tee up, getting their client out on bond wherever they end up, which these days is usually going to be 2,000 or 3,000 miles away from where they were picked up.
Another attorney question. What happens in a situation? Sorry, I'm sort of losing my train of thought here. Sorry. Go ahead, Mel. I'll put it together.
Yeah. So yeah, what what we're seeing in Los Angeles, obviously, they're I don't know if this is within your wheelhouse, but the fact that Gavin Newsom is going toe to toe with Donald Trump right now about who has what authority over the Marines coming in or the National Guard coming in. This has been being punted back and forth in court right now. But that a lower court says return the power to Governor Newsom. National Guard needs to be under control of Governor Newsom. But then within hours, a federal court says, no, the power of the National Guard belongs to Donald Trump. And that's kind of where we're at today, at least this morning. And the powers of those soldiers, whether it's the National Guard or the Marines, what they are supposed to be doing, and that's literally right in front of my old apartment. What they're supposed to be doing is only there to protect the federal buildings, protect the courthouses or whatever from, whatever threat, the rioters destroying federal property. Are we seeing anything, or are you hearing anything on the West Coast that these soldiers are participating in any ICE activity?
Well, one of their edicts is not just to protect federal property, but it's also to protect federal agents. So they're also there to protect the ICE agents. So I personally think it's a travesty to send the National Guard or the U.S. military into, immigration enforcement actions. They're not trained in immigration enforcement. They don't know, who's a soft target, who's a hard target. It's sort of indiscriminate. It's like a buckshot method. And to utilize our American military in that manner is really, I think, shameful. And then, do you
think it violates the Posse Comitatus Act?
That I don't know. I knew you were going to ask me about that, but I didn't have to research that, except not to pronounce it incorrectly. But yeah, it's a real travesty.
It sounds like it is, don't you think?
One of the things that I saw, just as an aside, is, that the National Guard was sent in and they, without any food, without any place to,
right.
So, just using bodies, to make a political point, and also to further the pissing contest, between Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump, teeing up for the next presidential election, clearly. So, yes, it's
Susan using some spicy words there. Well, look, I want to throw this out there in case people missed it. This is the Democrat Senator Alex Padilla, who identified himself at a Homeland Security press conference. He identified himself before he got into an altercation with her security guards and whatever. I feel like they saw a big brown Latino man that was approaching the podium, and they responded in this way. And I feel like this is also part of, I don't know if it's so much theatrics as, it was more drama than it needed to be, is my impression, because he identified himself as Senator Alex Padilla. And this is how
Kristi Noem knows him. Okay.
Yes.
So that's the point here. It's not about him identifying himself. Anybody can say they're anybody, but she knows him. It's
but
that's Alex. I know Alex.
This is what they did to him.
Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is, I have a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your. I also want to.
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go, I'm behind my back.
Cool. Hands on the hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir.
Other hand.
These people are insane.
Yeah, I think that it just underscores Trump's desire to be a strong man with, all loyalists working for him, particularly in the military and law enforcement branches. And, related to this, the Trump administration, ICE officials have even arrested a sitting judge for supposedly scooting an undocumented migrant out of an alternative exit. And for that, she was actually handcuffed, taken into custody, processed.
She's been indicted, yeah?
Yeah. I don't know.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, as an attorney, all right, so if, let's say I, Ted Rall, I'm walking down my street here in New York City, and masked men approach me and say, oh, we're with ICE, we need to see some ID, we need to see that you're a U.S. citizen. And I tell them to go to hell, and I say, let me see some ID. How do I know you're with ICE? And they refuse to identify themselves. They don't have badges. They're just big, scary dudes in masks and no ID. Now, in New York, I will be afraid if that happens, okay? Now, do I have a right to just run away, ignore them, try to save my life? Because, and I don't have to believe that they are who they say they are, right?
No, and this is sort of like the classic lesson that is taught to young females, as we're growing up, is we don't necessarily have to pull over for every car that waves us over to the side, because we don't know whether or not they're the police. And the general advice is, to go to a police station and then stop there. But under these circumstances today, for that specific example, Ted, I would say submit now, complain later, because the risk of physical harm to yourself is so great.
Right.
To evade them or to
because they might hurt you.
Because they're sort of acting a little, they're acting outside the scope of their normal authority, and I think they're a little bit drunk with power. And ICE is not really an agency that is like the DEA, that works undercover, much. So this is all relatively new to them.
They're not that well trained.
Correct.
Or they're not that experienced, right?
That is correct. And they're certainly not well trained in de-escalation techniques. They're actually being trained now to escalate. So my advice to anybody in that situation, undocumented or otherwise, is submit now.
But what's to prevent random kidnappers from cruising the streets of our cities in vans,
exploiting
anyone can buy this equipment that says police on it, and get a hat that says police. I've been to the police supply store in the Bronx or in Queens. No problem. I can buy this stuff.
Yeah.
And I can snatch Manila off the street, and nothing. And she just has to go with me, and then I take her somewhere and kill her. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, it seems like it's almost just a matter of time before somebody exercises deadly force in order to protect their person, and then so
that was my next question.
Mm-hmm.
And that person, in the end, right, assuming they survive the encounter, they're likely to prevail in court, no?
Well, it depends what state you're in. I think it depends on your jurisdiction and your judges. I mean, stand your ground is quite strong, like in Florida, for example. But, with Trump reaching out to so many different levels of government, for example, in Florida with Ron DeSantis, it's hard to say whether or not somebody would get a fair trial.
Right. But if they got a fair trial, presumably, right? I mean, in New York, for example, you are allowed to use deadly force if you believe that you're about to become the victim of a crime.
That's right. That's why this whole, overboard enforcement action and ICE officers, and I've known ICE officers and I've been friends with ICE officers, and, there are good men and women who work there. But,
it's hard to believe nowadays, honestly.
Yeah. And
I think they should all quit.
I mean, I have a friend who's an analyst at the northern border with DSHS, and he is ashamed to tell people what his job is. He will not disclose what his job is to people when they ask. I think that it's the training, for these kinds of dangerous, sensitive, highly emotional, and dangerous situations that ICE just does not have adequate operational training to handle the level of enforcement work in the manner that they're doing it in. And that's just and then you throw in the National Guard to protect ICE agents, then that just adds a whole nother dangerous variable to the situation.
Susan, can you talk a little bit about the legal exposure that someone who is, like, say, me in Manila, legal U.S. citizens, if we decided to knowingly aid or assist someone who is being sought by ICE for undocumented status, let's say we decide to let them stay at our house and we hide them. Are we exposed?
Yeah, you can be prosecuted under federal law, and in states like Florida, you can be prosecuted for, I believe it's a Class A felony in Florida. So separately, federally and statewide, you can face charges for illegally harboring an undocumented alien, whether knowingly or not. And in Florida, even for just driving into the state of Florida with an undocumented alien in your vehicle is a prosecutable crime.
What if you don't know that the person,
whether
the person's status is...
Whether or not you know.
Wow.
So it's like we call that statutory liability.
That's crazy.
You're complicit whether you know it or not.
Yeah, that's sort of like how, like, if someone, like, you give someone a ride in their car and they're carrying contraband and the contraband's in your car, you're exposed also, even if they didn't tell you.
Right.
So
this is, I mean, what a sketchy patchwork quilt, across the country with, like, as Susan highlighted, there's state laws, there's federal laws, and this will surely divide how whole groups and classes of people interact with each other, especially in a state like Florida, where we know you just moved from. So that, the laws there and what Ron DeSantis is doing very, very well. This will certainly divide all the different, ethnic groups of going, they're going to start being suspicious of their own friends. Like, are you documented? Right. Can you be in the car with me? Can you be in my house? What if they're following you? And this is going to send that chilling effect to everybody.
Manila. It reminds me of the stories that I heard from my mother, who grew up in occupied France during World War II. And if people were, kind of had their local version of Anne Frank that they were hiding in their house, which the French did a lot, actually, especially in rural communities. But if the Gestapo or the Vichy authorities or the Nazis writ large found out, they could kill your entire family, just for hiding a Jew or a member of the resistance. We're getting, it's feeling more like that.
It is. And you know what? I want to go back to an earlier example that you cited, or question that you cited, about running away from, unidentified ICE agents, or so-called ICE agents. I want to relate a story to you that actually happened. An undocumented alien did flee ICE agents in Florida, close to Jacksonville. And he ran across like a 4-lane highway, and 2 ICE agents chased him on foot. One of the ICE agents was hit by a vehicle and killed.
Excuse me while I laugh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And that alien, that undocumented alien, was charged successfully with vehicular manslaughter.
Even though he was not the one driving the vehicle.
That is correct.
Even though he was not, these guys didn't identify themselves.
Well, I don't know what the circumstances of the chase were, but so that's
because they routinely have not been identifying themselves.
Yeah. So this was actually before the Trump administration. So, but yeah, there are many, many risks that come with, submitting, and many, many risks that also come with fleeing. So including, being possibly charged for manslaughter or homicide, if something happens to the ICE agents during a foot pursuit, which is a highly dangerous activity for law enforcement.
Oh my God.
That's crazy. So wait, so
it's Florida, man.
Let's say the agent has a heart attack, or they walk by an angry dog and the
dog
attacks
bites them.
Yeah.
Right.
You're responsible because they were, I guess, in Florida,
because you got them, because you led them,
because you ran through the yard that had a dog, and the agent had to chase after you, and so therefore you're responsible for the dog bite. So
again, we're going backwards. Manila, you're from LA. for years there was this citywide sport of like basically the police helicopters and cars in high-speed chases against motorists who were on the lam. And then
that's our
at
hometown
a certain
sport.
point, the LAPD stopped that. They were like, these chases are killing pedestrians and bicyclists and other motorists. We've got to put an end to it. It's not worth it. Just let these people go. Maybe try to set up, stop them, set up a checkpoint later on. But like,
well, this is it's kind of back. It's back in vogue in California, or at least in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
The police chase. There's a whole channel dedicated to this now.
It's ridiculous.
So it's back to a sport, and I think for both parties, both for the police officers, police departments, as
this
well
is
as
so much contempt
criminal.
for law enforcement too. I mean,
so this is
I mean, I got to say personally,
it is a volatile time.
I am less likely than ever to pick up the phone, and if I see something, say something. Last time I rode the subway, I saw a bag, unattended on the ground.
No.
It should reach out to the police and say, hey, please check out that bag. It could be a bomb. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to interact with these people. And I'm a fully legal status, born in the birthplace of democracy, in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm still not going to do that.
So, yeah.
And I want to let you know that.
We lost Susan's. There you are.
Okay.
I want to let you know that actually ICE receives a lot of tips about where undocumented aliens are from their public tip line online. And they do utilize that. They do follow through with those tips. So any, citizen who is, I don't know, say just does not like undocumented immigrants, it's so easy.
Or has a beef, right? Like, to your loud upstairs neighbor with the annoying dog that barks all night or whatever.
Right, exactly. And what they're looking for is they're looking for places where undocumented aliens conglomerate. So even though they're getting a tip just about an individual, if they know, this is an apartment building where there are a lot of undocumented aliens, or this is a place where day laborers conglomerate, they're not choosing their targets based on singular reports. They're doing the numbers. Is
that legal?
Absolutely, it's legal. And I should tell you that Trump is still only at 1/3 of the deportations per month that Obama had. So Obama was deporting 35,000 people a month. So far, Trump has only been deporting 11 to 12,000 per month. And that is really chapping his hide.
How come Obama, how did Obama get away with it? And he's fondly remembered. And Donald Trump comes off as the fascist pig.
Yeah, you know what? I have a lot of historical writings about the Obama administration and deportations and the rise of, their dreamers who are very radicalized now. And that's the other thing. That's the other shoe that I'm waiting to drop is when one of these radicalized dreamers actually commits a serious offense against the United States. And that's with the way things are going now. It's just fueling the fans of discontent amongst the few very radicalized dreamers that are in the United States. But yeah, on my old website, strongvisa.com, I have a plethora of documentation about the Obama administration, deportations under him, congressional bed mandate, and all those kinds of things to contextualize it historically for people. But certainly Trump and Stephen Miller are acutely aware that they are abysmally behind Obama in deportations.
Oh, I'm so sad for them.
This is so crazy.
Maybe they can work it out in therapy. Yeah. Robbie, our producer, has a question, and I'm glad he brought this
we'll
up.
have to let Susan go because Susan,
this is an important
kept her
one
for a long time.
So the administration has this has been characterized by some supporters of these moves as a tactic to encourage migrants to self-deport, basically terrorize the community. And so rather than deal with like the fear of being picked up at work every day, they're hoping that people will just say, screw it, I'm going to the airport and I'm out of here.
What do I think of that?
Do you think that's true?
Do I think that people are self-deporting?
No, do you? I mean,
that Trump is being so heavy-handed that it'll scare the migrant community to self-deport.
Is that what this is about?
Absolutely, 100%, 100%. That is happening, and I've seen it with my own eyes. Absolutely.
And so people are.
They are, and not only that. I have to sit across the table from clients of mine who are, for example, corrections officers, and they sit on a DEI committee at work. and they're trying to become citizens. And they ask me, do I need to remove myself from that DEI committee? And my answer is, you most certainly do, 100%.
Why?
Yeah.
What's wrong with being on the DEI committee?
Because that might target them for further scrutiny or denial of their citizenship.
Right, because Trump is trying to break up all DEI groups and whatever within.
Targeted private law firms for DEI policies, which
Mm-hmm.
even that's crazy. But 100%, they are
Like
also
Paul Weiss and all.
yeah,
those,
exactly. They're looking at individuals at that level as well.
Yeah, this is crazy. It's just a crazy, volatile time in American immigration, and it's so worthy to point out that you know, as much as we hate what's happening with Donald Trump, it was actually worse under Barack Obama. And I actually know. Oh, we lost Susan.
There were hardly any protests about that.
I know.
At the time.
He was
the deporter in chief. As
he was.
You know,
I actually
like
know. I know a dreamer who grew up to become. She's much younger. She's she grew up to become an immigration attorney herself. So there's Susan. And it's perfect timing to say goodbye, because we know we've had you for so long, and I appreciate you giving us so much. She's an
attorney. She's missing out on the billables. Let her go.
I know. So Susan, I was just saying that one of the dreamers that I know actually grew up to be an immigration attorney herself, and she's still in the DACA status, and but she's working in that field. She's a dreamer herself, and I knew her since she was a little girl, and she has done something great with her life, but she's still in limbo in terms of her official status, because she's a dreamer. So that's.
Dreamers they're under Damocles' sword. So at any point in time, Trump can legally begin enforcement of deportations against dreamers.
Maybe the smart move is to, sort of go into the wild, live in like a national park for like the next 3 years, and wait for this nightmare.
Ride it out.
Yeah, ride it out.
Go Unabomber style.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ride it out for 3 years. Yeah. Susan Pai, we appreciate you giving us so much of your time. Is your website, the old one, still active? It's still there? Can people go look at it?
Yeah, it's still there, and it goes all the way back to the Obama administration. So I would really encourage people to look at that, and also to look at those entry, exit, overstay numbers from CBP online. Just get the right information.
Strongvisa.com. Is that what it is?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to put it right up on the screen.
Susan. Please
go check that out.
Okay.
Susan Pai, always a pleasure. Thank you. And you
busy.
look super
Keep
beautiful
doing good
today.
work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, you guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, Susan.
Have a great day.
Oh, she's great.
So glad we had her on.
Strongvisa.com. So I've got to go
brought some
look at
clarity to the situation. Look,
wild.
It just makes my blood boil. Like if I have a friend and I let him stay with me, like the Gestapo could come and get me.
Yeah.
Fuck those
for
people.
being complicit with. That's fucking crazy. This is it's meant to fracture society. The way that the Trump administration is behaving towards undocumented people, and therefore, like I said, I don't ask the immigration status of my friends. I don't know. I don't know.
Here's
like if you're my friend, you're my friend.
Like you and me, we agree that the border should be controlled and should have been controlled.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with controlling it. But the people who basically walked in, invited, okay, like they didn't, it's kind of like, if you don't, it's kind of like one time I had an affair with a married woman. It wasn't my vow. She's like, hey, you wanna? I'm like, why not? I didn't make any promises. She did. Well, it's like that. It's like if I walk in, if you have your country and you don't, and you're like, don't worry about that border thing. Just come on. Here's an app. You could just fill it out. It's cool. Just come on in, work. Everything's fine. See you later. And then later, you're not a bad person. You're just doing what you
were allowed to do.
You were allowed, and in many cases, you're coming from a country that was fucked up by the U.S., right? So you can't work, and everything's destroyed. So the point is, I feel like the migrants themselves are the victims. And if people are angry at the open border policy, then go after the politicians who
Right.
left
Stop
the border
electing
open,
those assholes.
and go after the corporations and the CEOs who hired
exploit
people who weren't qualified to work. Go after them. Go after
Right.
the
Like,
Tyson
this is-
Chicken people who always were having fun
force
hiring
the
undocumented
Tyson
workers.
Chicken
Go
to,
after
to
them.
pay a living wage if you want Americans to have
To
jobs.
Americans. And
Give
yeah.
the jobs to Americans. Give
But, like,
and
these
pay
are-
Americans a living wage.
The people are These are victims. And so we could just say, okay, no more. The ones who are here, they're grandfathered in,
I
but
get it.
never again.
No, I
I
agree. I agree that they, the people, especially the dreamers, and like I said, I don't make it a general rule of thumb to find out somebody's immigration status, but this person,
they came as luggage.
I
The
knew.
dreamers they didn't have any
I knew.
choice. They came
Right,
as
so
luggage.
She was a child.
They were
what-
carry-ons. It's like it's not their
Right.
fault.
She was a child. She had no control over.
Yeah,
her
I know someone who
future
came here when
as a
she
child.
was 3. I mean, really? What choice? She's a criminal? Man, she was a
was
mastermind. If she's a
She was like
3-year-old
7
criminal.
or 8 years. She was a little girl, like a 2nd or 3rd grade little girl. Like
Mhm.
what. But outside of that, I generally don't know anybody's immigration status. So this is the part that I hate the most, is that now it's incumbent on us, Ted, regular Joe Schmoes and Jane Schmoes out there, to what? Check the immigration status of people before they can come to our house, because otherwise we're
Good
complicit.
point. Well, only in the car, apparently.
In Florida. I don't know. I better check what the laws are in Virginia before I host a barbecue, because, I don't want ICE raiding my whole house and arresting everybody that's here for being complicit and having some brown people over that might be undocumented.
It's going to totally make your military parade day soured this weekend.
Poo-pooed.
So,
Which, by the way,
do you already
hundreds
have
of
your
millions
tickets for
of
the
dollars
parade? Are
tomorrow.
you going tomorrow?
Hell to the no. I hate those crowds. No, absolutely not.
You hate the crowds.
I have spent years on the ground as a reporter covering riots, parades, good stuff, bad stuff. I've had my fill of tens of thousands of people at local events. I've had my fill for a lifetime. Hell to the no. And it's getting hot, especially no.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
hard no. So anyway, that does it for us. I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. Thank you for staying with us through the technical difficulties. And now we know why. Google, the alphabets, it was them. They got some problems.
Yeah, who knows what? Maybe they were hacked or whatever.
Aren't they the richest company on earth, Ted? Isn't Google Alphabet?
Oh, it's like
Aren't
it's like a big country.
Aren't they like the richest though? Like literally the most profitable company on earth? Oh wait, we have a word from a sponsor.
Well, while he's talking, me put a word in for myself. What's left? Never mind the Democrats. It's the left-wing book by your favorite TMI host. That's me. So pick it up everywhere where books are
Ted
sold.
never gives credit.
Steal it if you need to.
Clovis co-wrote it, and Ted never gives him credit.
Well, that cat's into everything. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. Only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check, the smooth medium roast, and the vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy, and laser focus, no crash, all single origin, small batch, toxin free, and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions. And that'd be hard in my case because she is no more. And a black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. $170 worth of coffee and gear. Yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they are gone, daddy gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe.
Now I got the violent femmes in my head, Ted. Thanks a lot. Gone, daddy, gone. Love
Let
is
me
gone.
go. Oh, that's Blister in the Sun. Sorry.
Yeah,
You know,
that's gone,
any
daddy,
song-
gone.
all rock songs are improved by the presence of xylophone. That's the way I look at it.
That is true. I really do. I do love the xylophone. I think it's an
I do, and also I
underutilized
love the
instrument.
farfisa.
I don't
Yeah.
know what that is.
Oh yeah, you do. You know, it's that Egyptian organ that makes it's that most famously used in Question Mark and the Mysterians is 96 Tears.
Oh,
I'll be up here, you know.
I have to
Like,
look and see what that looks like.
Or
I'm
maybe
gonna
because
challenge.
because you are a child. Scandal lead singer Patti Smythe. Goodbye to you. Goodbye.
Oh,
to
I know the
you.
song.
That little ticky tacky like organ is the farfisa. Squeeze
Really?
uses it a lot. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it looks like. I'm going to challenge anybody, if you're a music maker, to look up what a can is. It's a big
Spell.
I don't know how to spell it in English, nor in Lao, because I can't read or write.
Well, that's not going to help us in Lao, which is a funny looking language.
Big wooden piped thing, like usually made of like bamboo.
Is it kind of like a flute type thing?
Kind of, but like vertical. It's a big vertical flute with multiple tubes,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the middle of it, you blow into it.
So it's like a flute lute kind of thing?
I don't know, but it is a Lao wind instrument, and I would challenge any person that makes music. I will promote you all over the place on everywhere social media if you can make an English and modern sounding song with the use of a Lao can, and
there must be someone who's done that.
No, because Laos is the smallest, most obscure country, and now Trump has travel banned it, so now no one can bring it. My can importer can't come.
I went through a long period of collecting strange cultural collisions. Like I have Thai rockabilly cassettes. I have I have Khmer death metal. I have Kazakh hip hop. So hip hop is everywhere, man.
And I'm looking at Drew in our Rumble chat. He makes music. Drew, DS Tanks, Stanko. So Stanko,
yeah,
make some music. Stanko makes some music. You should check out his YouTube channel. He often shares it with us. And I said if he makes us some original pre-roll music, because we have to keep changing it because YouTube keeps.
Oh God, yeah, but that won't help. By the way. We have our own paid for,
No, not that. I'm the
OG.
pre-roll, not the open. The pre-roll. They keep coming after us for that. I don't know. They're just picking on us.
It's
but
bullshit.
I'm telling Stanko now, go ahead and if you make us some cool 2.5 minute pre-roll, we will use it because we constantly have to change it because YouTube keeps moving the goalposts. So there's that. Anyway, that's it for us. Look up the Lao can because my Lao can dealer can't.
I'm not going to make any jokes about your Lao cans. I just did. What?
I got it, Ted.
Wait,
I got it.
I want to look up what it is.
Okay. Let me see.
So,
how do I even spell it? I don't even know.
It's not the cane, Khaen, which is.
It's a musical instrument.
It's a Lao mouth organ.
Maybe that's it.
Whose pipes are made of bamboo, connected with a small, hollowed out hardware reservoir into which air is blown. It is
here.
vertical.
I'll show it on the screen here. I'm gonna share this here.
Uh-huh.
One last thing I'll share. This.
It's the.
This
I
is
think
it.
It's the.
This is it.
Cane.
This is it. Can.
That's it.
It's not
That's
a cane.
It's the cane. Khe.
No, not cane. It's pronounced can.
Oh, can. Okay.
Can.
All right. So that's the can. That's it.
So this is the can right there. So this is a artist drawing rendering of it. Here's a dude. Here's a dude on TikTok. He has one. My grandpa used to have one.
No home should be without one.
This is it. How do I?
Oh, I was gonna try to play one, but then I got a local ad for mayoral candidate Zoran. Don't worry, I'm voting for him. Relax. That's
So
cool
I
as
don't
shit.
know. I don't know who dude
The only
is.
thing is, I gotta say this. Maybe his is just not that great. The sound's a little disappointing because it sounds a little bit like something that you hear in passing, like when I bike past the merry-go-round in Central Park, which is a few hundred
I see
feet
what you're
away,
saying.
and it sounds ticky-tacky like that. I was hoping for a more robust sound.
No, it's. I think I've seen larger ones than this. That's what
Ooh, yeah.
But
It's not the size of your can. It's what you
it's.
do with it.
But this is basically what it is, and the dude is playing something that doesn't sound. I don't know, like a mishmash of Lao music and Western music. But that's really cool because he's some random white dude playing a Lao can, and he says, "Ever since I found out this instrument existed, it became my favorite instrument, and it will stay my favorite instrument." Huh. I wonder where he is.
I mean, it looks.
It
I
sounds
have to say, I gotta say, we have to go. But it really does. It looks like maybe the most ergonomically unfriendly instrument ever invented. Since the bass drum. It's like you have to hold your hands up like that, and I mean, your fingers probably go numb if you're over 40.
You blow into it. I don't know. My grandpa he got me a little one, like a tiny kid size one, which I used to just blow into it. I didn't make music.
All right,
Not much of a
little housekeeping. And Robbie, stay on after the show. Just take us out, and the three of us, you, me, and Robbie, we have some stuff to talk about. So.
Oh, we have some housekeeping there. So,
yeah, so
I dare anybody make some cool ass can music because nobody's done it because it's just no one's done it. That's all.
It's in Manila's honor. Do it. Do it.
I would love to see somebody do it. A musical person.
Don't make
anyway.
Clovis get involved.
Have a great weekend. Happy 250th birthday, Donald Trump. Oh no, wait. I mean that's the Army. Happy 250th
it's just a coincidence.
Army.
It's just a coincidence, Manila.
U.S. Army. And all you vets, including
Donald
my husband, U.S. Army vet.
U.S. Army, so it's kind of the same thing.
Also, the president's birthday. Have a
he'll
wonderful
be 79
weekend,
tomorrow.
Have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back on Monday.
Stay on,
hopefully, I don't get arrested by like ICE or something for having illegals unknowingly in my house.
We're just looking at
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.